just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to another episode of the Believe in NFL Draft Prospects podcast. We are moving on to guards for this week's discussion for summer scouting. Today's pairing of prospects is a guy who really would have been in the first round conversation. I've got a hot take on this guy. Christian Mahogany from Boston College, and then Osiris Torrence, the Louisiana transfer who is heading to Florida, or is at Florida currently, headed there over the spring with his head coach also leaving. Ryan, I want to, before we get to the read and we get to everything, I want to talk about, though, here with Mahogany, the torn ACL, that seriously derails him. But how much do you think that impacts like his possibility of maybe declaring? Because you've spoken to him. I have also spoken to him very briefly, but you've actually done an interview with him and he's appeared on this show.
Yeah, I'll put it like this. There's no real information here. This is just pure speculation. I just think that I just wouldn't shut the door on a declaration. That's why, like last week when he got hurt, me and Joe talked a little bit about like, hey, should we talk about Christian Mahogany? Should we put it off? Like, will he be a part of the cycle? I still think it's possible because I think that he's a player that already has 2 years of film. He's going to be a redshirt junior, so he may be graduating. I don't know 100% when the graduation happens. And it's not a great guard class, right? Like a true guard class. So I think it's possible. I think it's all going to depend on how the rehab goes from the torn ACL. Like, is he going to be able to participate in pre-draft opportunities? Is he a guy that, as a redshirt junior, is a player that is he eligible for one of the either the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl? Like, can he have an opportunity to play in all? So I think that the time frame of when he gets back from that injury is going to be a huge talking point to whether he declares or not.
Well, so it's middle of June now.
Right.
And if it's typically like a 6-month recovery timeline. So he could be good by December. Right. I would assume that he's available. Like I mean, I don't know why this popped in my head, but like Jamison Williams, like he was not able to test, but he's going to be good for the start of the season based on the time that he got hurt, because the recovery process is so much quicker. But I mean, it's a possibility, but I doubt he does, that he could play a football game at the end of the season.
Yeah, and it's also there's a lot of things that go into that decision, right? Like it's like, all right, am I eligible for one of these all-star games? Am I comfortable playing in one of those coming off of this injury? Is my body going to be in a good enough shape where I feel comfortable to show out my athletic traits and my athletic skills? That's a big talking point. And then also, Joe, he is a 300 plus pound offensive lineman, right? So
335 is what he's listed at.
335. Wow. I didn't even know
that's what the it looks like it.
Well,
like
Jesse,
good 335.
If Jesse Fritch is listening to this, which I know he does sometimes, why is Christian Mahogany no longer in our draft database?
Do your job, Jesse. Do your job.
Because I literally have the database pulled up. That's what I'm working off of, and I don't see him in here. So, Jesse, you suck, sir.
I'll text my guy at Boston College. I'll tell him to put him on a scale.
Do it.
He's a social media guy. I'm sure that he could definitely do that.
I was only mentioning weight because how guys come back from injuries is often determined by the body types, right? And how much they weigh, and how that's why you never, like big men in basketball, you never want to have foot injuries or back injuries, right? Because that's like the big no-no. And when you're tearing ACL, you're carrying a lot of weight at 335 pounds. So I think timeline is going to be very important to it. I would not close the book, though, just for everyone out there. I would not say that is a definite that Christian Mahogany will not be part of the cycle. I would say it's less likely now, but I would not say that it is I don't think that's a definite thing that we can just assume that right now. I don't.
Yeah, there was some really early buzz for him being possibly the first guard taken off the board by various publications and analysts. And we're going to talk a little bit about our projection for him, as well as Osiris Torrence from Florida. Before we get to that, though, folks, I want to tell you about Bet Online. Our partners at Bet Online continue to be the #1 source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds. Freaking Colin just messaged me and completely ruined.
Do your job, man. Do your job.
I just got one of the weirdest messages from Colin, and I need.
Can you disclose it?
No, I'll tell you after.
Picks
really,
or it didn't happen. Picks or it didn't happen.
No, I'll tell you after. It's really out of context and really weird. Nothing appropriate, but I was just like, I was so thrown off by the text that I was like, what? All right, find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. Super easy to get started, so head to their website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. So Ryan, I've got a little bit of a hot take here for both of these guys.
Oh no. Is it about BetOnline since you just ruined the read?
It's not about that's Colin. Colin ruined the read. I did not ruin the read.
Gotcha.
Ryan,
right, Joe, I'm usually the hot take guy. You got a hot take for me, man?
Yeah.
You got one?
Ryan, I have to admit, I think I'm higher on Osiris Torrence than I am Christian Mahogany.
Same. It's not that
Wait,
hot.
what? I was joking. I was setting that up to I don't think that. I was expecting you to be perplexed. That. Wait, I think what?
That. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting that. I was expecting to set that up. You call me an idiot, and then we would go back and forth. Wait, why? I wasn't that impressed with Osiris Torrence.
I think they're stylistically kind of similar, but I think Torrence is bigger and stronger and has better tools.
He doesn't move well, though. Okay.
Does Mahogany move well?
I think Mahogany moves much better than Osiris Torrence. Okay, so let's get into Osiris Torrence here. Okay. I watched him against Texas. That was the only game that we had. I think that he has the tools that you talked about. He's
good film against Texas, man. Good film. Go ahead.
Well, that was sarcastic. I assume that's
no, it wasn't. I thought he had good film against Texas.
I thought he was fine. My issue with him is I thought that he was super lumbering. Like the movement was really freaking slow. Watching him redirect was like he'd go one way and then it would take him a second to come back the other way. Like it just was like really clunky. I wasn't impressed with the movement capabilities.
Well, Joe, what was your? I'm honestly asking because I think this is a good talking point, right? The kid is 6'5", 347 pounds with a 7-inch wingspan, 11 and 1/8 inch hands. What I'm honestly asking this, right? I'm not insulting at all.
Yes,
but so before you scout somebody, you have a perception in your mind, right?
Yes.
My perception in my mind is that this kid is a big brick wall of a football player, and he's not going to move well in space. And I don't think he does. I agree with you. This is a linear athlete. I think linearly, though, he's nice. I think he moves well in a straight line.
Okay.
Changing direction, agree completely. No
argument at all. He can't do it.
This is not a kid that an outside zone heavy team is going to be like, yes, we want Osiris Torrence, but for a gap power scheme that's going to run some inside zone, like this dude's a people mover. He's going to be really good in that system.
Yeah, I see the power, and I see him effectively using his weight to his advantage. And he's somebody where when he's in the right position and he doesn't have to redirect in pass protection, like you're not going to overpower him. Like he's somebody who can very easily overpower a 0 technique and will do well against a bigger 3 technique. Like that stuff was notable on film. I didn't think his angles were that great, and I didn't think he moved that well. And I totally understand the statement that you're making there is that you know how big he is, and you make note of that before you go in.
Right.
I just was at least hoping to be a little bit impressed, like him to move better for his size than I was anticipating, because he has been relatively highly talked about. And I think Mahogany moves much better considering that they're the same size profile. Mahogany's 2 inches shorter, but they're both 340 pounds, 335 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I guess our disconnect is just off of. I understand that Osiris Torrence is scheme dependent. 100%. But for that scheme, I think he's a really good player. I don't know. I like this film. I thought that he is. How much do you think that kid squats, man? He is one power.
Oh God! I mean, considering I watched Kyle Murphy, who was our starting right tackle, I think, and left tackle at one point, and he wasn't 335. I watched him squat 700. I bet that he's probably 650 and up. It's probably somewhere up there.
Dude, he is. I mean, again, just for the measurables out there, these are verified measurables. 347 pounds, like you said, right around 6'5".
Wait, his 347 is his verified?
Yes, when he was in spring when they came around because he's
not
at the University of Florida.
337, 347.
347. He's a big fella, man. He's a big guy.
And this is at Florida.
Yes, he's at Florida now. Yes, and Joe, keep listening about this already.
I don't like that he's that heavy. I don't.
I mean, you can always cut weight, though. You always cut weight.
Okay, go ahead and make your point, and then I have something.
11 and an eighth inch hands. 11.
He's a big dude. He's a big dude.
His wingspan. Guess how big his wingspan is?
Didn't you say it's like 75 plus or something like that?
Well, I don't have the number because in the database we've converted it into an actual height. So it's 7 foot wingspan. He is massive.
That is massive.
That is crazy. So I all that to say, I agree with you. There's going to be some deficiencies moving in space, redirecting. Yes, some quicker, twitchier defensive linemen are going to give him problems. Sure, don't disagree. But if you're looking for a guy that's a Gabe Jackson type, right? Like that dude who's just going to move the line of scrimmage and have displacement power, I like him a lot for that one. Yeah, I do.
So I made a note based off of the knowledge that he was listed, I think, at like 340, and you're telling me he gained 7 pounds. I made a note that I think if he loses weight, if he loses some of that fat, because he is a little jiggly. He's pretty jiggly. Like that's not. Guy, that's all not. He's a big boy. He fits my big boy category of prospect analysis. My body typing. Both these guys are considered big boys. Hashtag big boys. I'm starting that trend now. I think that if he got down to like 320, 325, he would move a lot better, and I would be much more optimistic about him. I don't think gaining 7 pounds is really a good idea for him. I don't think that's.
Joe, can you do me a favor real quick, and I'll stall for you as you do this. Can you Google Osiris Torrence and just click images and then click the first one and look at how big his arms are? Can you do that for me? It's fantastic.
I see that.
Dude, do you see his arms? My Lord.
That's a big ass arms, dude.
He's a big boy, man. He's a big boy. You know what I liked about him too? You know what I really liked about him? Guys that big, sometimes their pad level and their bend isn't going to be great. Yeah, I didn't really see that much of an issue on film.
I think he's pretty fluid. He's pretty flexible. Yeah. I was expecting some stiffness. So that was like the redeeming thing with him is that like, and why I made note of if he loses weight and he gets down to a more reasonable playing weight of 325, like that's perfect. There's not a lot of guys in the NFL that sustainably can play at that size. Like most guys don't make rosters when they show up at that weight. He needs to lose weight. He can't play at that weight.
How much more do you like Osiris Torrence if he's 327?
I think I would bump him up a whole round projection. Like right now, I think I saw him as like late 3rd round, early 4.
You know what's funny is that we have very different opinions on him, but I feel like we're rounds range is actually still the same.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. It's a little interesting.
Well, so all right, we'll get to this in a second. Yeah. I don't want to jump ahead. I want to point this out though. So I had a random thought while I was watching it, and I was like, man, this dude just does not move well in space. Like he's just so freaking lumbering and slow. His feet are like the slowest I've seen of some of the guys that I've watched in the interior group, including the centers. And I was like, I wonder what he would look like at tackle. And I'm like thinking to myself watching this Texas game, it would have to be so painful to watch him at tackle. And sure enough, in the 4th quarter, he gets bumped out to tackle. And I was laughing my ass off watching that happen. I was like, wait, where did he go? Did he get hurt? And then it occurs to me he's at tackle. And sure enough, the dude can't move at tackle. He's terrible at tackle.
How big is remember Mike Upati that came out of Idaho? He was a good player. He was a big guard like that too. Was he around the same size? I looked it up.
331.
6'5", 331. So yeah, if he gets down to like a 6'5", 331, then why can't he be Mike Upati? Why can't he be Mike Upati?
That was what I think held Upati back towards the end of his career, is that he just got so heavy and slow that he just could barely move.
He still made like 3 Pro Bowls, I think, though, Upati. So he was a good player.
He was good. Yeah. I think Osiris Torrence is good for various instances. But the way that I was trying to set this up is that I thought you were equally as high on Christian Mahogany as I was. I was hoping that you would come in here and you'd be like Joe, what the hell are you looking at? And because Christian Mahogany, man, I would take him top 20. I really like Christian Mahogany. I really enjoyed watching him. Because he is the same weight. Okay, he's 15 pounds ish lighter than Torrence, but he moves really freaking well for a guy that's 335. He's moving like he's 300 pounds. I think he's just very fluid as an athlete. I don't think the strength is there compared to Torrence. They're different players, but I think he can play in his own scheme. I think that I liked his movement capabilities is the big thing for me, and for him to fit that big boy category that I love referring to big move boy. As he did. It was exciting to watch. I think there's a lot to work with there.
Man, who would you? I want to see your starting five if you could make it out of these 2023 kids, man, because they would just be big brutes. Like you would have like DeLeone Jones at right tackle, and
I haven't watched DeLeone. I gotta watch him.
Yeah, you would just have like 370 at one tackle, 350 at one, Because who's the one that we disagreed with last time? That was just a massive dude that you liked.
Avila.
Center. Oh, Avila, dude. Yeah, 340 at center. You would love Avila at center, man.
But he moved pretty well for a 340-pound center.
Yeah. Hey, man, we have found Joseph DeLeone's guy, right? Like that's your style, man. Is you love
his big boys. Yeah, I like hashtag big boys. I'm starting the trend now.
You know what's funny is I think I tend to go the opposite way. I tend to value more
smaller,
like foot quickness and flexibility is more my thing. Like because I think that everything now is just everything's so much more zone scheme now, just in general. Like there's not a ton of teams that really value the gap power stuff as much once they did. But I don't blame you for one big guys, man. It's a big man game, so I don't have nothing against that.
I value the big players that have rare movement abilities. And I think Mahogany has that. I don't know if you agree with me. Not rare, but I think he moves really well for his size. Not a lot of 330-pounders can move as good as he can.
I think he's a better mover than Torrence, certainly. He's also a little bit smaller. My biggest thing with him, I don't think he has – I think that – because I posted a clip on him, I think, last week or so. I think he has good power. I think he's got displacement power. I think he moves solidly enough. I don't think his length is very good though. Like I saw him slip off of some blocks a little bit in space. So, and I also don't think he's the most cat quick offensive lineman of all time either. Like I don't think he redirects that well. So I know we're going to get into like projection to like where we would place these guys. All I'll say this before we get there is that I don't think there's a ton of, like I said, I like Torrence better. Okay, I do, and but I'm not like it's not a big separator for me, right? Like those guys are not separated by much. It's just kind of the point I'm putting out there. So I didn't dislike Christian Mahogany. I just liked Osiris Torrence a little better. That's all.
The one other thing I liked about Mahogany is he's very active. Like there were a lot of plays where I noticed he was always looking for somebody to hit. Like he was in pass protection and there wasn't anybody head up on him. He'd go one way and then he'd come back the other way for, to just pick up whoever was there. Like that, I always value. I always value guys that are always looking to do more on plays rather than those that like when the play's like kind of over or there's no one for them to block, they just kind of hang out. They just chill where they're standing. I like that about Mahogany as well.
Mahogany's a little bit of a prick. I agree with you, and that's good. I like guards. I like guards that are pricks. I mean, that's not a negative at all. I want guys that want to find work, right? So, like, I'm there with that. And he's been well coached at a school that has produced offensive linemen historically, right? And it's going to be, man, I feel so bad for Phil Dracovic, by the way, right now, because you're going to be without Mahogany this year, and you were already replacing 4 or 5 starters. So literally 5 new starters this year.
Starting offensive linemen. They'll be fine. They've always recruited decently well for an ACC school, but they lost for linemen.
They also lost their offensive line coach to the Miami Dolphins, Matt Applebaum, as well this offseason. So
yes, that is true.
Not great, Ryan, but yeah.
Is it public? I might be mistaken. Is it public knowledge how he tore his ACL?
I don't know. Why? Do you have a backstory here?
I might have how he tore it. I might have the information. I just texted somebody.
Oh,
So
is it
I
like
don't know if I'm allowed to disclose.
is
I don't
it
know.
like a strange way?
It was a really stupid way, and I don't know if I should say it.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Everybody DM Joe DeLeone to get the inside information. But
I have a scoop. Wait, you think I shouldn't say it? Like I have a scoop here. Like this is
I'm not
gonna. I won't say it.
Who gave you the scoop? Who gave you the scoop?
Someone close.
Friend?
Someone who works. Don't worry about who. Somebody who works very closely with the team. I trust their information.
I wouldn't disclose it.
He's giving me some tidbits on. I won't say anything. But okay. It is probably one of the stupidest things you could do in the off season, and it's probably how you would expect a big guy to tear an ACL.
No, was he limbo dancing?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with limbo dancing. That was how we tore his ACL. So Ryan, I want to wrap up today's show with. We already kind of talked about the projection for O'Cyrus Torrence. We agree that this is right now a guy who's really only worthy of being selected at the end of round 3, somewhere in round 4. That's where I'm comfortable. I think if he loses weight and he moves better, which is already not looking the case unless he somehow loses 15 pounds over the summer, which is not a healthy timeline to lose that much weight. I think that he's got some work to do before I can really buy on him being higher. Where do you sit with Mahogany, though? Because, like I've already stated, like I think this is a first-round guard. I think that he is worthy of being selected in the first round.
I would draft. To backtrack to Torrance for a second, I think I would start thinking about him early in round 3. I like O'Cyrus Torrence. I really do. For a specific scheme, I would start thinking about it there. Mahogany's mid-third. Somewhere in that ballpark, late 3rd, somewhere in there. He's a day 2 player for me. I don't quite see first round player, but if he's a guy though where like I'll say this. Torrance, I think, is just kind of what he is at this point. I don't see him getting like a ton better unless he loses a little bit of weight. Mahogany, I think, still has upside as far as projection. So if he would have had a healthy season, you could have pushed me to maybe he's a more like an early day 2 player, but for now I'd say mid to late third rounds, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher on him as an athlete and what I saw him do. I want to dig in and watch a little bit more of him, more than I typically will, just because I really like the tape that I got on him.
Yeah,
maybe my perception might change a little bit. Who did I watch?
No. I wasn't going to ask who you watch. I'm going to ask Esteban Steve Avila and Christian Mahogany are falling off a cliff. You can only save one.
Stop it. Can we get like a normal
question? All right. Actually, though, ready?
Yes.
So it's the 20th overall selection in the 2023 NFL draft. You're on the board, and you need both a center and guard equally. Who are you drafting?
They're basically the same player, though. Like I would take Mahogany over Avila because I think because my issue with Avila is he had such a lack of ability to reach the second level, and his angles were troublesome because he's like a dump truck. He's rolling downhill, and you ask him to turn and go the other way. I think I saw much better movement abilities from Mahogany. And you kind of said that you thought that Avila might be better as a guard.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I think I would still take Mahogany over Avila in this circumstance.
Oh, I was texting Avila over the weekend. By the way,
tell him I'm a big fan.
We might have him on the podcast sometime soon. I'm going to tell him that you called him a dump truck. I want to see how he.
I think any offensive lineman would be take that as a compliment. Being called a dump truck.
I guess we'll see. We'll see how he responds.
Why wouldn't you be? Because a dump truck is one of the most physically domineering pieces of technology. It can lift and move heavy things. Like, why wouldn't you want to be called a dump truck?
Domineering, eh? Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm back on my I'm back on my
word of the day calendar.
Well, not word of the day calendar, but I'm not making up words anymore. I'm actually
that's good, man.
Running on no sleep. So
yeah, I hated having to be the guy that would correct you so often. So I appreciate that.
Instead, and we're back to me correcting you, folks. That's going to be it from us on today's show. We've got another pairing, which you and I need to figure out the next pairing because you picked the Kansas State guy, and we don't have any Kansas State film.
We're gonna make it work.
I refuse to watch game tape. Not game tape. Broadcast film. I am not doing broadcast film for an offensive lineman.
I guess we're moving on to whoever's after the Cooper Beebe pairing. Then I guess that's what we're doing. Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. At Joe DeLeone, at Rising Draft, at NFL Prospects Pod, Hack City on YouTube, and wherever you're listening on audio. Hit subscribe, and we will be back for more coming up tomorrow.